Hello, I'm Christopher Bartle.
And I'm Jeremy Michaels, and welcome to Training for Success from Burley Horse Trials. The theme of this video is a personal training system to help improve your riding and your effectiveness.
This will enable you to communicate better with your horse and to develop a rapport and relationship with that horse.
If you really want to improve your riding and achieve success in competition, in the next 100 minutes we'll be showing you how to really become a successful rider.
The intention in this program is to help you to develop your own training plan, bearing in mind the basic principles which apply both on the flat and over jumps, but also taking into account your own personal attributes in terms of conformation and temperament. No two riders will ever look exactly alike, but the successful riders are those who know what they want to achieve and set about achieving it in a disciplined and yet flexible manner.
Jumping at the higher levels obviously demands a much more developed ability, so professional show jumper Tim Stockdale will illustrate how he does it on a professional basis and how the basics can be developed and put into practice every day to produce top show jumpers.
To be a successful rider, one must have a really clear goal in mind. You've got to have discipline, you've got to be aware of what you're doing as a rider. You've also got to watch other riders and learn from mimicking them. But above all, it's having that will to succeed because you know what it is you want to achieve with your riding. And that, whether that applies to dressage or show jumping or eventing, it's having a picture in your mind and saying, that's what I want to look like.
So what is the British Horse Society training method all about? Well, really, it's trying to make riders become more individualistic, less dependent, I suppose, on trainers and instructors, so that when they're schooling by themselves at home, or if they're warming up and preparing for competition, they don't need to rely on anybody else. They're so well trained, they can feel what they need to feel to improve the way of going of their horses, so that they can ride by themselves. And this is a very, very important aspect of any rider's training. So, for example, if Alex on the chestnut here goes out to compete, which she does regularly in affiliated dressage competitions, she doesn't need to have anybody standing in the middle the whole time telling her what to do. Because she's well trained at home, she goes to a competition and she can work in by herself and tell when things are going wrong and know how to correct them. And that is a very, very important aspect of people's training.
We'll look at 4 riders in this program: Stella, Trudy, Daniel, and Alex. And with a little feedback from them, we'll discuss a program for their improvement. What gives me satisfaction in terms of competing or training horses is to bring on a young horse, maybe a difficult horse that's been with another rider and hasn't been successful, and being able to overcome their difficulties and achieve things with them that perhaps at one stage didn't seem possible. I would rather start with a horse that has a certain amount of tension and be able to develop a rapport and a communication with that horse and bring it through to the point where it does win competitions. That for me is the real thrill of riding.
So if you're riding at a certain level and you're sort of stuck at that level and you want to progress and become more competent and go out and win in competitions, how do you do it? Well, it's really using all your senses, and especially your thought and your feel and basically intuition. Every rider has some degree of feel. It's trying to develop that feel that is the difficult thing. And riding lots of different horses and just being very, very aware of what the horses are doing, what they're saying to you, not just what you're saying to them, but what are they actually saying to you? So you come out one morning and the horse goes exceptionally well. The next morning, he goes badly. Why? They're living creatures like we are, so they have changes of mood. And I think as a good rider, you are very, very sensitive to that change. And it's the very good riders who win and pass these exams who are very, very aware of what their horses are doing from day to day.
As soon as you get on your horse, you'll need to assess his mood, the atmosphere of where you're working. If, for example, you're at a competition, then the first thing you'll need to do is to get the horse's attention to the job. We want to establish a rhythm, the acceptance of the contact, and therefore the outline. You can use transitions to get him to listen to the half halt, and other exercises such as the turnabout, the forehand, some lateral work later on will also help to get their attention. All these things will eventually establish an outline that you're looking for. It's very important not to try and force the horse into an outline by dropping the hands like that and pulling the horse's nose in. This horse at the moment is a little bit inclined to go on his forehand. He's dropping a little bit behind the bit, so I have to ride him a little bit more strongly forward with my leg until he comes up a bit. It's working a little bit in sitting trot now. Now the transition, then a turnabout, the forehand to the right to engage the hind leg a little bit. And out of that you see he's picked his outline up a little bit slow to go on, so I encourage him, a tap with the leg or the spur. But it's important not to be driving your horse at every stride with the leg. As a typical young horse reaction, something upset him and he zots off, but I just brace my back, do another transition, get his attention, and then set off again. The rider's position and maintenance of the position through all these interruptions to the rhythm is of paramount importance. I've got to make sure that my position statement is correct all the time, and I'm in effect saying to the horse, you relate to me. When the horse gets a little bit strong, then rather than hold on to it, I apply a half halt which lasts one stride and let go in the next. Don't hang on to them. Let them carry themselves. Teach them to carry themselves by making your corrections and then letting go. Another transition, rhythm, rhythm, rhythm. All this work through the transitions, walk to trot, trot to walk, trot to canter, canter to trot, is the sort of work that all horses require at the beginning of their work routine to get their attention, to establish the outline, and to establish the acceptance of the contact and work towards this thing that we're all aiming for, the self-carriage, the horses doing the job for themselves and not being carried by the rider. Don't be in a rush to force them into an outline. Take your time to get their attention through the transitions, the exercises that we've just shown, and through that you will establish the rhythm and the control as well as the outline.
You know, what one has to appreciate is that every horse is an individual, and they're going to come out to compete, and if they come out very tense and uptight and you haven't got an awful lot of time before your competition, then you can't rush things. It's better to still take your time and stick to your program, and you can only do what you can do. You must work logically and don't start panicking and trying to force things to happen too quickly. You can't make a horse settle down by getting cross with it.
But again, it's a rider's attitude of mind that often gets through that.
That's right, yeah. I think it's very important when you have resistance, or laziness really for that matter, that you focus on a target and say, once I achieve that target, then I'll be happy with the horse and say thank you.
Yeah.
Whether you're riding a new horse or the one you ride every day, you need to be able very quickly to assess how the horse feels and how to work it accordingly. We'll now look at Chris riding a horse he's not ridden before, and he'll run through the basic principles that he applies in his work with every horse he rides.
So this is the first time I've ridden this horse, and when riding a strange horse, the first thing you have to do is make an assessment of three things. Does he go forward? Does he accept the slowing aid? And does he respond to the body and leg in the turns? If you have those three things, then you will establish a good contact with the mouth, a good rhythm, and the outline that you're looking for. Think of it in that order of priorities. First, that they go forward. Secondly, that they accept the slowing aid. Thirdly, that they yield to the leg. So the first thing I do is to make myself comfortable on him in the walk, feel through my seat and leg whether or not he is going forward. And I'm quite pleased with this. He's walking on nicely. I've got a reasonable contact. He's not always entirely attentive, but at the moment I'm quite happy. So I'm now going to gather up a little bit, the rein, and then go on into trot to see whether he goes forward in trot. I'm not worried too much about the outline to start with, more a question of letting him go on. And as you can see, he went on a little bit quickly to start with. I'm working in rising trot because that's very often the best way to settle the horse. As I work around on this large circle, I'm really just trying to keep him straight in front of me and establish a rhythm. Now I'm going to bring him back to walk, and then I'm going to let him go on into trot again. And as I start to do these transitions, you'll see that he will start to settle into a better rhythm. Turn to go the other way. And the same thing on the other rein. Depending on the horse you're riding, you must understand that some horses will take longer to settle than others. Don't be in a hurry. Take your time to consider that order of priorities. Is he going forward? Will he accept the slowing aid? Will he turn when your body turns? That's another crucial thing. If he turns with your body, listens to your leg, then he'll start to settle onto the contact and come into the outline that you want. Now as I work in sitting trot, then the same thing applies. I must just try and sit in as relaxed a way as possible, feeling whether he's paying attention to me. When he doesn't, I come back to walk. When he's attentive again, I let him out into trot again. All the time trying to maintain that evenness of contact. He starts to become inattentive again, back to walk. I move him off my leg a little bit, and then I let him go on into trot again. Same applies in the canter. Again, I want to just maintain a quiet contact to his mouth. If he comes with me on the turns, and I maintain my position, then he will eventually settle into that contact and rhythm in canter. If he starts to go on too strongly, I'm going to slow him again with my outside rein, perhaps do a transition back to trot, re-establish the rhythm, acceptance of the slowing aids, and then canter again. And then quietly on into trot again. So that sort of work will take anything from 5 or 10 minutes to a full session to get your horse's attention. And all the time you're assessing those three things. Is he going forward? Does he accept my slowing aids? Is he listening to my body and leg in the turns? And if you have those three ingredients, then you'll have your horse accepting the contact in a rhythm and in a good outline.